as comments are already coming in on the listings we've been sharing, and the Palatine listing is just absolutely going viral. Absolutely going viral on the I Love Seaville network. A home that is legitimately unfinished. The studs are showing in the house. Has an asking price of $400,000.
And that's going to have to be a cash deal because getting a loan on that's going
to be impossible.
Yeah.
This is an investor purchasing this house, an investor with sophistication. It's not just an investor, somebody, like me that's taking properties that are finished and renting them out.
No, Mrs. Smith, I'm not going to buy it.
This is somebody that legitimately knows how to do construction. And how would you even characterize the construction that's needed with this? And we'll talk about this when the cameras go on, but how would you characterize the construction that's needed for this?
Well, I only spent a few minutes on it, so you probably spent a lot more time on it than I
walked through it.
Oh, good for you, man. Look, I mean, I'd have to get eyeballs on it to really go ahead and see it through it, but seeing through the pictures end of it, I think, look, I've said this about renovation work hundreds of times. If you think it's going to cost you $1, it costs you $2. So it always will cost you more than you think it will cost you. I'm not so sure this isn't a buy and hold and wait for the county or the city to finish its rezoning.
I think that's 100% what this is, and we have heard.
Well, it could be somebody with a bunch of cash that wants to renovate it and fix it up. Could be.
We'll renovate and fix it up and then rent it. Not live there. All cash offers aren't going to live in 650 square foot homes.
No, so they'll buy it. They'll add some extensions to it. I mean, nobody really knows up until this point, but yeah, it's interesting. I just came from a place where the haves and the have-nots are so much starker than here that it's really hard for me to visualize how that could even happen here, but we'll talk about that.
Guys, give the show a like and a share anywhere you guys are watching. Keith Smith is back in the house on the Tuesday edition of Real Talk.
Batman and Robin.
Some of the topics we have been covering have undoubtedly been going viral across the network. We're going to spotlight them today with the distinguished gentleman, Judah Wickower. My friend, we're ready to rock and roll when you are. Good Tuesday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness. We are live across Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love Seaville network. We're presented by Yes Realty Partners. So much to cover right now, and as Roger West just put on the feed, a mortgage broker, the rental and investment market is very hot right now. So much we will discuss, including the listing I posted yesterday that's going viral, literally as we speak, across the I Love Seaville network. That listing on Palatine Avenue, $400,000 for a home that is currently unfinished. You heard me correctly. And what I'm hearing is offers are coming in, and they're coming in quick. Judah Wickower is our director. Judah, let's welcome the sun-kissed Keith Smith to the program. Welcome back, Keith.
Thank you. I thought you were going to start with the tan. I'm surprised that you didn't start with the tan.
Sun-kissed is tan. How are you?
So look, I just want to correct something. Did you say the Palatine listing was $400,000?
The listing on Palatine, I'm going to call it the listing.
$295.
I stand corrected. I'm looking at it right now. It is $295 for 672 square feet. Unfinished home.
And that changes the
$295.
But that changes the calculus substantially.
How so?
Well, to buy a decent lot in Charlottesville, you're getting close to that kind of price point. A 200, 250. So I mean,
how big do you think this lot is?
That I don't know. We're going to do this live, folks.
0.13 acres.
Yeah,
so
but
you're saying a 0.13 acre lot has a $300,000 price tag.
No, what I'm saying is a 0.3 lot is probably 225, 250. So it's getting closer. It's getting closer to the tear down numbers, and that may be what's going on with this. This may be a buy and hold and wait for the rezoning to happen, to change on that end of it. But it's interesting, and I've been tracking all the great work you've been doing, and highlighting this it's pretty. On one hand, it's awesome, on the other hand, it's pretty darn scary.
It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. Questions and comments on upzoning, put them in the feed, and we see them running rabid right now. First, we welcome Keith Smith back from a 2-week excursion to the Caribbean. How was it?
Yeah, it was great. The first week we got to, Yona and I worked remotely, put in 4 or 5 hours a day and got to spend some honey bunny time, which, when you work together for 37 years and you're married together for 37 years, you got to kind of do a little honey bunny time. The second week was really awesome. Both our daughters and husbands and 2 grandchildren came down to see Yona for her 60th birthday. It was something we put together for a few years. It was a lot of fun. And, it was fun, but as one who has not had little toddlers running around in your life for a long time, that's a lot of work, man.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So we got to hang out with the grandkids, and the adult children went and did their thing, and so we did a lot of babysitting and watching kids. It was a lot of fun.
The most difficult job undoubtedly out there is that of a stay-at-home mom with a couple of toddlers in tow. And I salute and champion all those that do that. You should be paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for your hard work.
I think the second hardest job is being 60 years old and keeping up with a 3-year-old, a capricious 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old that won't stop moving. So
it's a good thing you can give them back.
There is that blessing. That is that blessing to say thank you. Mom and I are going to go out for dinner. Have a nice evening, and turn around and leave.
Neil Williamson, welcome to the program.
Hey, Neil,
the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Folks over at NBC 29, and hello, welcome to the show. Undoubtedly, the topic du jour is upzoning. And folks, we have highlighted from the listings on Shamrock to the one on Palatine to Browns Market, homes and properties are flying off the market. Some leaving us scratching our heads. Johnny Ornales, Que Pasa Chico.
Hey, Johnny.
Where do you want to begin? I think we begin with the impact upzoning is having on this city.
Well, I think it's multiple things, Jerry. It's just not the upzoning. It's the lack of the market. I just quickly ran some quick numbers this morning before I was able to get off the plane and kind of get in here on that end of it. But we're just week over week, 1 month apart. We're double our new on the market. So a month ago we were 57 for the same week a month ago. New on the market. Right now we're 103. But in Charlottesville, there's only 23 homes on the market at the moment, and we've got, let me see, hold on a second, we've got 56 in pending. So, we've been talking about this, it seems like, for 2 years. I think the upzoning is just one little thing that's going to be added to the inventory struggle here that we've been having. And, I think I come from it a little bit from a different perspective than you do on the upzoning. I think there's a lot that we don't know about it. There's a lot that the the city hasn't figured out yet. I don't think it knows what it wants. In fact, let me rephrase that. I know it doesn't know what it's.
Well, the thing is, and Neil and you have a bet going on about this. Roger West has this comment. A new report on Tuesday shows home prices nationally are up 19% in a single year.
Yeah.
That's 2021 versus 2022. Home prices are up 19%. This was sent to me direct message from JB. I'll leave it at JB via LinkedIn. He says 8% of U.S. home sales in February, 8% of U.S. home sales in February were 1 million plus. That's according to Redfin. He adds, we literally are watching the real estate market on a rocket ship right now.
Yeah, and I watched a bunch of shows when we were away. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for folks sitting in for me when we were away. and I posted a couple of videos a couple of times on it. Folks that think that these prices are increasing, that is true, but this is not a repeat of 07, 08, the great implosion on the end of it. On 2009, we had roughly 2 million foreclosures, and I just put it in perspective. We had 2 million folks get married. So, we're not even remotely close to that. We're in the single number, like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 homes. So foreclosures is really not going to really come in and hit this. This is purely a lack of supply. It is nothing more than that. This is economics 101. It's a lack of supply, and the demand is high. And, we're at 4% interest rates plus.
4 and change.
Everybody thought that was going to slow things down, and we predicted it here. It wouldn't. It's going to ramp it back up. Lake Monticello has 7 homes on the market. When I left, there was 12. It's just this market itself is just the key to the game is getting listings. The key to the game is getting your home on the market.
You got multiple realtor publications, and that's one of the reasons I've been trying to emphasize this on the network. Roughly 44% of Americans think we're heading to a real estate bubble. 44% believe that's the case. Now, you and I disagree and have explained why we do not think that's the case. We've identified the massive equity in people's homes. We've identified the regulatory nature of financing and how it's much more difficult to get financing now than it was in 2008, 2009, 2010. We've identified that people are not using their houses as piggy banks, as you say. Home equity lines of credit are not nearly as common right now as they were in 08, 09, 2010. And all those factors, those KPIs, are reasons why we have identified or why we believe it's not a real estate bubble. Still, when mortgage brokers like Roger West, and Roger, thank you for watching the program. You did a hell of a job on Michael Guthrie's talk show on 1070 WINA over the weekend. When brokers like this say a new report out today shows home prices are up 19% year over year, that's a shocking number.
It is a shocking number, but you have to take a deep dive into that and figure out what that's all about. We did a quick analysis, you and I, this morning. There was 33 homes sold in Charlottesville, Virginia, in the last 30 days.
Let me do this. Everybody listen to what he's about to say. LinkedIn, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Facebook, Twitter. Listen to the stat he is about to say. JB, you're going to love this stat over here. Okay?
You got to take a sip of coffee.
This stat shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah, so I took a look at what sold in Charlottesville in the last 30 days. Now, this is closed, so these were contracts that were written 30, 60 days ago, right? So there was 33 homes that were sold. These is attached and detached in Charlottesville. 10 of the 33 were cash.
10 of 33 in the last 33.
Roughly a third.
A third of the homes sold in the last month were cash only.
Were cash only, and they ranged everything from 235 up to, I think there was like a 750,000. So they ranged in cash and back. Part of the reason why I don't think we're heading for a repeat of 2008 and 2009. If this was 2008 and 2009, none of these would have been cash. They all would have been some really weird lending product that they had out there that don't really exist any longer. So if there is a drop in value, and this sounds a little flippant, all they're going to do is lose cash, right? So this is important because they're not going to get foreclosed on. It was a bad investment. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Ray Cadell, hello, welcome to the show. Christopher Eagle, hello, welcome to the show. The folks at Long & Foster and Nest Realty, hello and welcome to the show. Give the show a like and a share and join us with discussion and questions and comments you may have. I want to throw this to you here. A third of the homes in the last month in the city of Charlottesville were purchased in straight up cash money.
Correct.
Cash money.
Correct.
That leads us to believe what? Those homes were purchased by whom?
Well, and I've actually printed it out, so I was taking a look at it. What I didn't find was any LLCs buying them. I didn't find any LLCs buying them. But, it could be anything from a cash investor, like this one particular unit on 959 Reeve Street. You know, that could have been an investor, 235. I had cash. I did a 1031 exchange.
Could be 1031, Starker Exchanges.
It could be an exchange on that end of it, and they're going to lease it out. And they can surely lease that out and do an ROI, you know, big time on that.
We can make this statement with confidence and conviction. Are you ready for this statement?
Yes, sir.
An all-cash buyer, a third of the homes in the city of Charlottesville over the last 30 days were all-cash buyers. An all-cash buyer is not what?
I didn't realize it was schooling today.
Is not what? An all-cash buyer is not a first-time home buyer.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
We can say that, right?
You got to give me. I've been out for 2 weeks. I'd give me a little room, get a little time to.
You would agree with that, though, right?
The chemistry. Yes and no. I will tell you. Maybe yes, maybe no. Yes, I will tell you. As you know, I do the land trust. I'm a chair of the land trust, and we actually just recently sold an all cash land trust home.
Wow, that's a topic for another day. You're selling a land trust home that is an affordable housing structure concept.
What the woman did, sold a home in Georgia, moved up to here. She had the cash, and she met the income requirements, and that's the only limit on it. It can't, you know, she could do that. But there was one transaction that we did.
That is a topic for a different show, because I think folks would want us to unpack that. Yeah. I will say this again. Neil Williamson, your thoughts? Jump in here, Neil Williamson. All cash buyers, in all likelihood, are not first-time home buyers.
No. So the percentage of that is very
slim.
Is very minimal.
Yeah.
So they're either empty nesters, right,
or investors,
or move-ups. Right, so they could be move-ups up in the higher end of it. They've sold their home somewhere, and whatever. This is a common thing right now where they've sold their home, they've cashed out on it, they had enough equity in it. It could potentially happen. It can come out of Northern Virginia, down here in New York.
Of those all-cash homes that exchanged, that transacted, how many? What's the price point stratosphere? You said one at 750. I will give you that the one at 750 very well could be someone that's choosing to live there, a trade up, or someone that's coming from Nova
That's not
to
an
here.
investor property, yeah.
How about the other ones?
Yeah, so we got 750.
Okay, what are the addresses? Can I ask you that too?
You can ask me whatever you want, Jerry. Because this is all public record.
Yeah.
The one on 750 was 115 East High Street.
Okay, 115 East High Street, great area.
The one for 687, hold on a second, that sold actually for 550. So it was listed for 687, sold for 550, which we need to unpack that a little bit. That was on 516 Valley Road.
Okay.
Go back to, let's double check that. So interesting. So the listing on 115 East High Street, ready for this?
Yeah.
Was listed for 750. Sold for 905 cash.
Did everybody just hear that? Listed for 750 and sold for 905 cash.
Interesting. Went under contract on 128, so it hung out there a little bit while before it closed on that end of it. Then the next one back was listed for 475. Here's another one. This is on 1025 St. Charles Street.
Great area.
520 cash.
Okay, that's not a first-time home buyer.
It's not a first-time home buyer. So that's this. If you want to go that way, none of this is first-time home buyers.
I want to go to the low end. How many are low? Not low end, but how many are toward the bottom of the price points?
Well, the on cash is the 959 Reeves, so that sold for 239 cash. So they probably rolled in a little bit of closing costs into that. The next
239 cash. You're going to make it that likely is an investor.
No, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Lee Elberson.
Hey, Banbury listed for 313, sold for 314. So that's pretty darn close.
Probably an investor.
I would not disagree with that. Let me see. 1,600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. That could have been a seller from Northern Virginia or somebody that cleared some cash and came to move down here. It was renovated, so somewhat renovated. Next one was 363, sold for 345 cash on Spruce Street. That needs a lot of help. That was definitely an investor on that one. 430, so we're jumping from 363 to 430. That sold for 420 cash, and this one's on North Baker Street.
Okay.
This is right close. This is a duplex, actually. So that was totally an investor. 425 is on Rock Creek Road. That sold for 425 in cash. That is probably not an investor. 479 on River Bluff Circle. So that's over by Riverview Park, right? Mm-hmm. Vacant, sold for 468, so a little bit less than listing price. And then we're back into the 475 one that we were talking about that sold for 520 cash. So that is clearly somebody who cashed out from someplace, came down
With a pile of money.
with a pile of money.
Scooped up a piece of property.
It's on St. Charles Street. It's all been updated inside and out.
So the comments are coming in fast and furious. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Spotify, fast and furious right now. We need to cut to the chase on upzoning here. And Neil Williamson, please jump in here. I have highlighted through a handful of listings. Neil, we're going to get to this comment that you just published. You just put on the feed here. He's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, and Neil, just an all-around great guy. I would pony up. To a bar and have a couple of cold beverages with Neil Williamson while watching some Jimmy Laycock and William & Mary football. So I've tried to highlight on the network, and I am all for housing for everybody. I am all for everybody getting a taste of the American dream. I've highlighted a trend that I'm concerned about, that upzoning is going to take housing stock away from first-time home buyers.
I don't disagree with that.
And I have said that between now and when upzoning is approved, a lot of the otherwise first-time home buyer rooftops are going to be scooped up by investors with deep pockets to try to make money off of. And we are roughly, 13 to 18 months away, 19 months away from City Council approving this upzoning. We think they will. You think they will. I think they will. Neil Williamson thinks they will.
It's the what that's the $64,000 question.
And we'll get to that. We'll get to that what. Once upzoning is approved, whether that's 13 months, whether that's 19 months, somewhere in that window, then it's going to take probably a year for these purchases that were made by investors to get permitted and for the construction, the remodeling to happen, where they can legitimately create additional rental opportunities for the
Or the
market.
demo.
Or the demo. If it's demo, it's going to take longer than a year for something to get recreated and rebuilt. We know there's supply chain shortages, labor shortages, cost of goods have gone up, and getting supplies is difficult.
Okay.
So I'm going to get out of your way here. Upzoning is going to take 13 months to 19 months. Then you're going to need another year after that 13 to 19 months.
That's if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, to get the permitting and the remodeling and construction done. So minimum, conservatively, we are 2.5 years away from new housing stock, new supply on the market to help potentially stabilize prices, which the whole progressive mentality of upzoning. More rooftops, more rentals will stabilize price points because there's more of them, there's additional supply. What happens, let's just two-part question. What happens between now and the next 2.5 years when investors are scooping up all this housing stock that's around here and keeping it from going to first-time home buyers?
So you hire trusted advisors to help you buy a house and sell a house, because this is going to be a wild ride.
Wild ride.
Wild ride. But it has been a wild ride. It's just getting accentuated. Thank you. On this now. Look, let's twist that around a little bit. So if we all agree, whoever we are, we all agree more inventory is better for the market. Housing for all, right?
I agree with that.
I think most people will agree with that. It's just simple economics, supply and demand. So based on that scenario that you just outlined, assuming this all works, right, and assuming all the boxes that one has to check, and we don't know what they are yet, they don't know what they are yet, on that end of it, is 2.5 years. I happen to think you're a little light. I think it's going to be more than that.
Okay, so you think it's going to be 3 years plus?
I think it's going to be 3 years plus.
Okay, so everybody heard that? The guy has a Class A contractor's license. He's been a realtor for 38 years? A
No,
successful
but
one.
Thank you. 35 years.
35 years.
Don't put more gray hair on my head.
I'll straight up say this: the guy's a badass.
Yeah.
Okay, Class A contractor's license and a realtor,
And I've developed 600 homes.
and
so
he's developed 600 homes.
I know a little bit about that. So it's going to take it. But what I wanted to twist this around a little bit on you.
I called you a badass.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you hear that?
I heard it. I heard it. I'm a little slow today.
You like that, didn't you?
I'm slow today.
But I see the coffee's kicking in though.
It's working. It's working. It's working. Got a little jet lag kicking in here, brother. I'm not, at the age of 60, it takes a little longer.
Come on, keep bringing it. I've been looking forward to this.
I know. He's been texting me. I miss
I've
you.
been looking forward to this. Come on, let's go.
Okay. Hold on. Cheers.
So 3 years you're thinking before the new stock comes on the market.
I think you're close to 3 years. I actually think I'm going to win the bet with
Neil.
With Neil.
You do?
I really do.
You heard that, Neil Williamson.
Yeah.
He's watching.
Yeah, I know he is. I actually was going to I was thinking about this on the way in.
Oh
today.
my gosh, he's going to up the ante.
I was going to up the ante. I said, if I lose, I'll shave my mustache off.
Oh, Neil Williamson,
And
did you
I
hear
haven't
that?
had that off since.
Dude.
But I haven't quite decided if that's. We have to be in person.
No. Neil Williamson, did you hear that? Or do you want to? So what does Neil have to do?
He
He has to grow a mustache.
He has to be awesome.
Neil is already awesome. He has to grow a mustache.
Yeah, no, I'm going to lose it anyway. So I bet.
Neil's going to take that bet. You better be careful.
But yeah, I know he will. Yeah. So look, so if we're all agreeing more is better, right? We're all agreeing that just a simple supply and demand, more housing units, going to increase that. So the best path forward is this missing middle. I prefer the term missing middle over upzoning, but let's call it, for my vernacular, the missing middle zoning. And eventually Albemarle County is going to catch up with the city, because I think that's what you're going to see is the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle start working on this missing middle.
No doubt.
And so these will be the path of least resistance. So that's why investors are looking at this. They're looking at this and look, I've got a little bit of cash. I need some 1031, whatever.
Stock market's in the crapper.
That's exactly what happens when the stock, I've seen this for 3.5 decades. When the stock market starts crapping out, people start buying dirt. That's just the way life is. When the stock market starts doing better, they'll sell dirt, and what they're doing is they're putting their cash, whatever it might be, in dirt. So a lot of this may be buy and hold, right? So the one that was on hold on a second here, let this coffee kick in, on Reeve Street is probably a buy and hold. I'm going to buy it. It's probably in decent shape. I haven't been in it. I'm going to put a tenant in there. Let's see what happens in the next 2 years. I know I'm going to be increasing 3, 4, 6% year over year. Let me put my cash there. I don't pay Uncle Sam, 50%, 30%, or whatever it is, and we park it, and let's see what happens.
I mean, rents in Charlottesville, Neil Williamson highlighted this in a story with the NBC 29. Rents in Charlottesville went up 1.1% in 1 month.
Yep.
In 1 month.
Yeah. I'm going to repeat myself. It's supply and demand. We don't have enough, and this is what happens.
Neil Williamson's ready to take that bet. He just put the best razor to shave a mustache in the feed right now. He's ready to rock and roll. So Neil will grow a mustache if he loses,
so
and Keith Smith will have to shave the mustache.
But then I'll look 20 years younger.
You look great already. The man is sun-kissed. Look, can we get a close-up one-shot on this face right here? He's looking good over there, isn't he?
So look, so go back to the path of least resistance, right? And Neil will comment on it, the people that understand this. If I wanted to go find a clean, a piece of dirt somewhere for Charlottesville, Albemarle, and we want to do a development to add more inventory, that's not 3 years down the road or 2.5 years. That's the decade down the road at minimum, from the time to go through the rezoning process, the site plan process, and everything. So this is, and you and I have talked about this all along. If I was 20, 30, if I was your age, I'd be buying up property. I would be doing exactly what this is now. For me, at the age I'm in now, I'm comfortable where I am and want to do that. But that's a smart move, right? Buy a piece of property if you've got the ability and blessed enough to hang on to it and sit on it. Some of these upper number ones that we talked about, these are clearly people selling homes, cashing out $1 million out of Northern Virginia, buying something for $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000 and putting the cash, not in the stock market, putting the cash someplace else.
So let's talk about some of these listings here. And Nathan Miller, we're going to get to your comments here. Nathan Miller's the king of Bridgewater, watching the program. We love you, Nathan Miller. Kevin Higgins, the king of Greenwood, watching the program over here. We got the king of content, Neil Williamson, watching the program. Nicholas Erpy says the Italiano and Keith Smith came out with that suntan.
Oh, yeah.
And he says good morning to everybody.
Yeah. Winter is the Irish look, and when you put a little sun on me, I get
you tan well.
It's the Italian. I mean, it's the half Italian.
Yeah, you tan well. He tans well. $295,000 for, this is 216 Palatine Avenue.
Yeah.
295 asking, 672 square feet, Keith.
Yeah. So that's an interesting listing because it's not like Reeve Street, right, where I can buy it if I got the $300,000 cash or whatever it sells for, right? Because it's going to have to be a cash buyer. And some of the loan.
Well, explain that to people.
Well, maybe some of the loan
Roger
officers
West, jump in here.
Can chime in, or Scott Morris can chime in. You know, it's going to be difficult to find a loan to finish that. So more than likely, this is going to be somebody buying it for cash. Keith and Yona or whoever gets together, buys it for cash, has a little bit of experience or understanding on how to do this, and complete it and renovate it. Or you buy it and you sit on it and just leave it alone, pay your taxes on it, and wait until the zoning finishes up, or the missing middle zoning, or they may do ZTA, zoning text amendments, instead of actually creating new zoning for that area, which is a whole different path on that end of it, and then make a decision at that particular point. But if you let that sit, you kind of have a repeat of our friend that's on the downtown
Yeah, the
mall.
extorting emperor of empty lots.
Yeah, so
Johnny Dewberry.
You have that, and at some point, and we haven't talked about that. You and I haven't spoken about that building in some time. But I'll tell you, my civil engineer, my structural engineer friends are like waiting for that thing to fall down.
$65,000 a year he's paying in taxes just to let it sit how it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a steel tension concrete structure. And concrete is porous. People don't realize that. And water's getting in there and rusting that steel, that rebar that's in that. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Nathan Miller has this. So we're going to, guys, a lot we're going to cover on the show, and I have a feeling we're going to go long today. Nathan Miller says, the king of Bridgewater.
I better slow down on my coffee then.
He's maybe so. Maybe yes, maybe no yes. He says, I feel like we are, so here's his take. A lot of people feel this way. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're heading into some sort of economic crisis on the horizon based off the discussions online and with friends between rising costs on gas, food.
But that's not housing, though. That's not housing.
He continues. Rising costs based on gas, food, rent, and a major bubble in student loan debt that's about to pop in May. A converted barn was changed into a one-bedroom, half-bath, and a storage area in the back in Harrisonburg, and is now renting for $550 a month.
Sure.
A converted barn.
So let's unpack what he said there a little bit. So repeat that a little bit slower, and I'll take some notes here.
So Nathan Miller. Nathan Miller is a professor. He's a professor. Professor at Piedmont, right, Nathan Miller? I feel like we're heading into an economic crisis on the near horizon based on rising cost of gas, food, rent, and a major bubble in student loan debt that's about to pop. And then he highlights a converted barn in Harrisonburg that was turned into a ramshackle one-bedroom and half-bath.
Yeah.
With a storage area in the back that is renting for $550 a month that had multiple people trying to rent it.
So, thank you, Professor. So we've talked about this numerous times on the show, months and months and months ago, because we called this. Inflation is going to be the key thing here. And that's what we're talking a little bit about here. It's not housing, right? It's not, the last bubble was pure housing. Everything else was humming along, and housing just as Quentin Beckham said, when you have a bubble, you have a balloon, but it pops. What's going to happen is this is just going to be a little bit of air let out. The bottom line is there's such a pool of qualified buyers, and as long as the federal government doesn't say, oh, we're going to change the rules on loans, it's going to be difficult for there to be what we have a real crisis of is housing for all. What we have a real crisis of is not affordable housing, but housing affordability.
And Kevin Higgins adds to what you just said. The mother of three working in University of Virginia is the one that's impacted by this. Charlottesville's greatest challenge will be keeping support people employed. People driving 20 to 30 minutes to and from Charlottesville is troubling. You will lose them. If you lose them, the city's in trouble.
Well, you've called this numerous times. It's going to be rich and white is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But
Fortunately.
and this is the reason why I put so much time and effort into it, and you put so much time and effort into this and trying to get this out. But to go back to that comment real quickly, and the coffee is working, so thank you, sir. So to go back to that comment earlier, one of the phone calls, one of the Skype phone calls I made last week was for affordable housing. We have Greg Slater and I have a listing for the land trust over at Spring Hill Village, and I've had multiple phone calls from folks, and historically, I'm a nurse at UVA. I'm a police officer, right? I'm a fireman, right? I make way above the 80% AMI, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you because this is where we're stuck, because this is where our area median income is with that. But I had 3-4 dozen phone calls on that week we were gone, trying to help people find that price point or find that thing. So they can even go a little higher, but the problem is because of the land trust, we can't exceed the 80% AMI, area median income on that. But it breaks your heart to have a conversation with a nurse, two nurse income household that can't find something in Charlottesville. Can't find it. You know, I wish I knew what to say. So maybe this missing middle, maybe this upzoning, as you call it, might increase the inventory. But darn it, you're not. I think 2.5 to 3 years is on the light side.
Neil Williamson watching, and he says this, and Ray Cadell, we'll get to your comments. Important note to everyone, investors often become housing providers. The rental market is an important part of the housing affordability tapestry. Hashtag more housing everywhere for everyone.
Yeah, so I would love to, and you know, I'm ill prepared for today's show. This is just Jerry and Keith doing Batman and Robin, and I love it with the folks in the feed. But I would love to do a little analysis on, you know, how many people, what is, and Neil probably knows.
Feed is on fire right now.
Neil probably knows this. You know, what are we short? How many housing units are we actually
in Central
short?
Virginia?
In Central Virginia, how many housing units are we actually short to hit a par, to hit balance? Somewhere in there, I'm sure we can figure this out. I just don't know it off the top of my head. I know that we're slowly picking up the new construction end of it, and that's where this keeps on going. We repeat ourselves all the time on this subject. One of the things that I was doing, Jerry, when we were watching the show from afar, was like, okay, what can we do to help spice up the show a little bit, change some of the topic thing, and then you come back and have this.
Yeah,
right?
It's on fire. This is what people care about.
And you know, I spent the week thinking about, hey, what can we have some new fun topics like Neil grow a mustache kind of thing. Neil grow a mustache.
I have a feeling you're shaving yours, dog. I don't think Neil's growing one. I think you're shaving yours.
Well,
I think Neil's pretty confident about that as well.
Well, bribery works, and I'll see what I can do to get.
Somewhere Yoda's like, what has my husband gotten into right now?
You know, I've had this since '85.
Ray Cadell, fantastic broker in the area. He says, I have 3 out-of-town clients looking between $750,000 and $1.5 million right now.
Can't find it.
He says they are all cash buyers.
Yeah.
Ray Cadell has 3 out-of-town clients looking between $650K and $1.5 million right now, all cash. He says
looking?
What Keith is saying is the difference between now and the bubble. All out-of-town work at home folks, the Zoomtown mentality and the Zoomtown moniker that Charlottesville and Elmore have. He adds, Ray Cadell does, I often try to make this point, including on your show yesterday, Jerry. Everybody is not necessarily a perfect homeowner. Tenants and rental inventory are critical. which echoes what Neil Williamson is saying. Good
Well,
Lord.
but
Between $650 and $1.5 million, all cash.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's struggling to find something.
He is.
And that's why I used the term housing affordability.
Kevin Higgins says, let's stop calling it affordable housing. It does not exist anymore.
No, and Kevin, thanks to you, actually at two bodies that I chair, I'm actually starting to change the conversation away from affordable housing to housing affordability, because it means different things to different folks. Ray Cadell has two buyers that can't find something to afford. Maybe there's something more than the price point that they're looking at that they can buy. It's the same thing with new construction. You can't buy, any new construction without a one in front of it. And that's not 100,000 on that end of it. But look, the city. Let's kind of rally this back a little bit. Let's just slow it down a little bit, and let's talk about what actually has to happen in the city in order for this to happen. Let's put a little context to your 2.5 to 3 years. I know that you outlined it a little bit, but the first thing is they have to go through the public process, which they started right now. So step number one was the comp plan, right? We said, this is what we want, right? This is what our vision is. Regardless if you agree it or not, it is now the comp plan at this point. And the FLUM, or is it FLUM? Is it FLUM?
FLUM, Future Land Use Map.
Thank you. And the FLUM is now part of the comprehensive plan. So now you have to have the zoning ordinances to support what the vision is. So there's usually two ways you can do that. You can do a whole, what you refer to as upzoning, or you can just do a whole rewrite of your zoning ordinances and your little map, say, okay, everything in yellow is now some new zoning ordinance that matches the comp plan, whatever it's called, R2, R44, whatever it is. They create a whole new zoning ordinance. Or they can take existing zoning ordinances and do what's called a ZTA, zoning text amendment. And they can change, they can say, okay, this is already in this area, but if you're in this area, this is now the text that we've changed on that end of it. Then you have to go through that. And the bet on the mustache is, I think it was
June. It was June, right, Neil Williamson?
June of 2023?
June of 2023. You say it happens, it's an over-under bet. You said it happens after June 1, and he says it happens before June 1.
Yeah. And
it's a bottle of bourbon that is now facial hair and a bottle of bourbon.
Oh, no. Can't be both.
I can be both.
I can't be both.
You raised the ante.
I raised the ante.
You upped the bet.
That's true. You're right. I have to add to it. Thank you, Smith.
Yeah.
Dummy. That's what I get for going away for 2 weeks.
Bottle of bourbon and a mustache shave. And if the shaving of the mustache happens, it happens on set on the network with clippers right here in front of the cameras. You willing to do that?
Do I have a choice?
I think you just got yourself into it.
Do I have a choice? Yeah, so then you've got, so you got to go through that. So you have to go through the public process and all the meetings, and I believe that's starting pretty quickly on that end of it. Look, the reality of it is on local jurisdictions, so that everybody gets this out, and Neil will probably agree with me, for the most part, during budget season, which is what you're in right now, right, very little typically gets done in a jurisdiction. So they're not going to really tackle any of this this rezoning. They might have some public meetings at the staff level, but it's really not going to go into earnest until they finish that, which is in March or in April, the end of March, beginning of April, right? The next big step is setting the budget, right, on that end of it. And once that's done, then they'll start tackling that. Then you're going to go into silly season, right? The city does not have any seats up in November,
Nope.
do they? No,
Nope.
so you won't go into silly season in Charlottesville. I think I just lost this bet. and then when we'll get through that end of it, then yeah, I think I'm shaving my mustache now.
Yeah, because you're saying they would have been distracted by November elections.
Yeah, for some reason I had in my head we were doing November elections.
And what further?
I got Albemarle County in my head.
Well, there's nothing with Almore either.
Then I got Fulvana. I got one of the jurisdictions.
Yeah, Almore and Charlottesville don't have any. What further? I love you. And, I love you too, Neil. One of the other reasons why I think Neil Williamson is going to win this bet is because in 2023, November 2023, Snook, McGill, and Payne's seats come up for re-election.
Yeah.
And I think McGill and Payne in particular really want upzoning to be a part of their legacy on council.
Yeah.
So I think Payne and McGill are going to push this forward
Yep.
before they're off the dais. And I'm going to cut to the chase. McGill ain't running again. I wouldn't be surprised if Payne runs again. Payne may run again. But you look at Cena and you can see that she is absolutely worn down and exhausted from this 4-year term on council.
You know, it's an unenviable position. I've said this numerous times. It's a lot of hard work. Regardless if you agree or disagree with a local elected official's decision, they put a ton of time in it. We've covered this numerous times on the show, you know, and so, you know, I understand it. I understand it better than most on what it's like and how it beats up on it. But you know, for some reason, I think I screwed up on my little mustache.
That's why I was surprised you made the bet.
Yeah, what the hell?
I was surprised you made the bet.
It's fun.
So Neil over there is licking his chops.
It's fun. It's fun.
So let's cut to the chase here. And
let me finish my train of thought real quick.
Yeah, please.
So let's assume it happens on June of 2023. Then the city is going to have to revamp its staff structure, right? Which it currently is not there. Probably may or may not be by June of 2023. But it's going to have to revamp everything to handle the requests to come in and do that. They got to put the system in place to go ahead and do it, and then you've got to submit stuff, and then you have to get through it. So I'm definitely past 3 years, you know, in my train of thought on that end of it. And then there's this whole thing called a building permit process that you have to go through, and you know, sometimes zoning, right, which is what we're talking about, and the building codes don't match. And then that becomes a whole issue. You've got to go ahead and mesh together the building codes and the zoning codes. So, for instance, one of those homes, if you want to turn them into a fourplex, right, it's like you buy a home on Elliott Avenue, traditional four square, right, what they call a four square, built in the 20s on that end of it, and you want to turn it into 4 one-bedroom units just for the heck of it, you have to have 2-hour separation on all 4. That's fire separation. That is a very difficult thing to achieve on a old structure.
A lot of comments coming in. Christopher Eagle, we love you. Yes,
Hey.
Realty Partners, founding partner,
Founding. What do we call
founding
them?
member,
Charter members.
charter member. Christopher
member.
Eagle, a charter member of Yes Realty Partners, the sharpest dressed realtor in the car footprint.
Without doubt.
Christopher Eagle. He says this: I was just in Lake Monticello and over in Waynesboro, and there were a lot of police cars from Charlottesville PD and Albemarle County PD. It is definitely unfortunate first responders cannot live closer to the place they work, and that's not going to change. I'm going to add to this. Christopher Eagle, phenomenal comment. One of the reasons we are not going to do an I Love Seville show today is I'm meeting with folks from the city to discuss this very topic of locals not being able to live, of city employees not being able to live in the city, and what we can do to drive attention for this phenomenon on this network because of the reach we have. That meeting is going to happen at 12:45, and as a result, I am not doing a show today. I will add to this, and I learned this from meetings that I've had with city folks. The Charlottesville Police Department has 117 total positions, 117. Of those 117 total positions in the CPD, 90 are filled. So that means there's 27 open positions. That is basically a third. Essentially a third. In fact, 117 times 0.3. You're looking at like 28%. 28% of the city of Charlottesville Police Department is currently empty or vacant. I want people to think about that. 28%. That is concerning.
Yeah, and
you know what's happening? Is they cannot hire folks because the pay is not equivalent, slightly lower to Albemarle, Fluvanna, and Greene.
Yeah.
And the officers can't afford to live in the city. Only 2 police officers on the Charlottesville Police Department, 2 police officers live in the city.
Yeah.
And that's because their better halves also have high-paying jobs to allow them to afford to do that. So these officers are having to make this decision.
So it's interesting. It used to be the other way around. It used to be you would go to Fluvanna or Lake Monticello or some of the surrounding counties to kind of get your certification. I'm talking about police officers. Get your certification, and you moved into the city because you were able to get paid more money. And it's very interesting that it's reversed.
It's changed.
So here's a conversation you can have with them today, and the question becomes, how much is the city, local government, willing to contribute into this? But there used to be, with the fire department, the PD, down payment assistance programs, right, where they would then, okay, if you want to live in the city of Charlottesville, and oh, by the way, some of these folks have to be so many minutes away. They can't be any more than 30 minutes away. Nurses are a lot like that. Policemen are like that. Firemen are like that. They can't be 2 hours away. But so if you can, if the city, PD, FD, and they have these programs, they just don't really promote them.
Well, I can add some because I got some insight on this. So it's freaking crazy what's happening right now. Two of the 90, there's 117 total positions in CPD. There's only 90 of them filled. 2 of the 90 live in the city of Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. The reason they can't fill the vacant 27 positions is because the pay is not there, and furthermore, the housing is so expensive, the officers have to live in the outer counties, and they're like, why would I live in the outer counties?
I'll just become a police officer there.
Exactly, and drive to Charlottesville and drive back to the outer counties when I can make the same money.
Or more.
Or more.
And buy a home that I can actually afford.
Exactly, and have less fiasco of City Hall and potentially less crime.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but that has a lot to do with it.
Has a lot to do with it.
Has a
and
lot
potentially
to do.
less crime. And this is another concern. The capital improvement, the budget, especially tied to capital improvements.
We're talking about the city still.
We're talking the city. If they do this 10-cent tax rate increase, which hope to God they do not, we're both in agreement there, and they do it to fund school reconfiguration, they would freeze capital improvement projects for 8 to 10 years. Michael Payne has said that.
Yeah, sure.
So this down payment assistance, guess what happens?
It's not fun. So
goes away.
Yeah. So to quote Ned Galloway, and this is something that and Neil will know this, and this is something that people that really, really want to follow local government, this budget season is so important.
Do you want me to tag Ned?
You can tag Ned.
I love Ned Galloway.
He and I were texting last night on the way home from DC. That's why this budget season is so important, because